glycoconjugated silylated glycoproteins from aerodromous crucibuggers have inhibitory effects towards angiotensin-converting enzyme contributing to its anti-hypertensive properties. Would you prefer this statement or edible bird nest has potential to control your blood pressure? Hello everyone, I am Dr. Lim Seng, an associate professor in University Kebangsaan Malaysia, and my area of research is on functional food and ingredients. In other words, I explore how certain food can benefit our health over and above its basic nutritional function. As a scientist, I learned quickly that it doesn't matter how brilliant your research is if no one understands it. Especially if you are trying to explain what a food scientist do, for example, to an aunt at a wedding. For the record, it's for, like everyone else, food scientists may or may not be good cooks. Throughout my 12-year career as an academician and researcher, I have come to realize that there are 5 key strategies that can help make science simpler. And just so you don't get lost along the way, the stories and examples I will share today will circle around my own research areas. Edible bird nest, seaweed, and fermentation technology on tropical fruits. That is the common thread, not a random buffet of topics. Okay, moving forward. Number 1, you must know your audience. This is true in all aspects of communication. If I'm attending a conference with a hall full of scientists, we can speak like how I did at the beginning of this talk for the entire session. Yes, scientists can be boring if we want to. Thankfully, we don't meet that often. In my line of work, I meet a lot of collaborators from the food industry, including manufacturers and F&B retailers, most of whom have business and management background. When speaking with them, I usually highlight the financial benefits. For example, how converting overripe tropical fruits into vinegars is essentially converting waste into wealth. Instead of throwing away papayas and sour soaps that don't look good, fermenting them into vinegars adds tremendous value to the product. In other social settings, family gatherings, school reunions, and the likes, a different tone is needed. People are more interested in practical information, such as how long should I double boil my edible bird nest? Or how much bird nest should I consume? They are less interested in how edible bird nest enhances skin health through its epidermal growth factor, which stimulates cell proliferation and epithelial regeneration. Alright? But sorry, I can't help it. This is my scientific brain oozes out all the complicated stuff. Well, that brings me to the second point. In order to make science simpler for others, I need to make it complicated for myself. What most people don't see is that making science simple is really hard work. Albert Einstein once said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. In agreement with Einstein, we must understand the fundamentals well enough before we can visualize the scientific mechanisms of actions. Only then can we communicate them clearly to others. Sometimes you really have to draw it up to make others understand you better, which in turn makes science simpler. Take this statement for example. Enzymatic hydrolysis of edible bird nest breaks down complex glycoproteins into simpler glycopeptides. This might sound complex, but I created a simple diagram to help people understand better. This simple illustration here is made possible through my deep understanding of the enzymatic mechanism of action towards the edible bird nest glycoproteins. Moving on. In the lab, I deal with enzymes, ultrafiltration, chromatography, and strange smells that only a food scientist could learn. I extract salicylic acid from edible bird nest, a substance prized for its brain boosting and immune strengthening properties. But the process involves breaking down glycoproteins without damaging their function. I make it complicated for myself so that later I can say to someone, this molecule might help your child think clearer and fall sick less often. In short, I do the heavy lifting in the lab so that others don't have to. Now, let me bring you to the third key strategy. Go beyond science. In any research I work on, I need to know the whole story, not only the fundamentals and the applied sciences, but also the economics, social, and geographical aspects. This ensures that my scientific work has real-world translational impact. Take seaweed, for example. I have done and continue to do serious research work on its chemical properties, functional ingredients, and product innovation. But let's step into the economic side for a moment. Did you know that Malaysia is the 7th largest producer of seaweed in the world? Japan ranks 6th, producing just about 33% more seaweeds by volume compared to that of Malaysia. But the shocking part, the value of Japanese seaweed is 46-fold higher compared to that of Malaysia. This is not a scientific gap. It is a value gap, a story gap, a branding gap. So when I pitch to my funders, I don't just talk about polysaccharides, antioxidant assays, and so on. I show them how science can close this gap, how understanding the full ecosystem around science, including economics and culture, makes my science and research matter. Because at the end of the day, I need funding to keep my science complicated, but it must serve a simple, meaningful purpose. Now, let me bring you to the fourth strategy to make science simpler. I realized something powerful. You don't always have to translate scientific jargons. Sometimes you invent your own. For example, we have a food pilot plant in our facilities, but not everyone understands what it is. Is it a plant planted by a pilot? Does it have something to do with the aviation? No, we don't have pilots working with us. Okay, we know are we working with the aviation industry. A food pilot plant is a small-scale facility used to test and develop food processing methods before full-scale production. To avoid confusion, a friend once suggested a simpler name: Mini Demo Factory. Mini because it is small, demo because it demonstrates what happens on an industrial scale, and factory because it is a processing facilities. It is descriptive enough that most people get the idea. As you would expect, food scientists work with food. That cannot be more obvious. Sometimes, we even create new food in our labs. One area that I'm very proud of is producing innovative products using fermentation technology. These include coconut water kombucha, seaweed kombucha, papaya, soursop vinegars, and the likes. Now, how do you explain fermentation to a group of school children? Easy. First, you feed the good bacteria sugar. Then it will mix out sour juice called lactic acid and acetic acid. Kids love it, adults remember it, and science becomes human again. To be fair, vomit may not sound that pleasant, but it's either coming up from your mouth or the other end, which is even more disgusting. So let's stick with vomit, all right? Oversimplifying or stripping it of its fundamentals, but by translating it into something that resonates with the audience, their values, their cultures, and their lives. Let me give you a simple real-world example. In my lab, we were testing a method to deodorize seaweed. The technical challenge was complex. Extraction kinetics, volatile compounds, solid phase microextraction, and more. But when I explain the outcome to a seaweed entrepreneur, I say, imagine if your seaweed didn't smell like the ocean. Imagine if you can go into tea, snacks, cosmetics, or even biodegradable bags without turning people away. And that is when the light bulb went off. That is when the science clicked. And it is the same in teaching. I make YouTube videos for my students, not just to show them how to pipette, but to give them context. Why this experiment matters, how it relates to the real food industry, how what they are doing now in the lab is part of a bigger picture. Because when students understand why, not just how, they become engaged. They take ownership, they start seeing themselves as a scientist. The more relatable science becomes, the more powerful it becomes. Not just to inspire, not just to inform, but to inspire. At the end of the day, science isn't meant to be locked behind like doors but buried in journals. It should be felt, understood, and used by everyone, from students to aunties at weddings, to funders. Yes, funders, I'm talking to you now. I need your funding to continue making science complicated, to make it simpler. Therefore, I'm expecting more from you now. When we simplify science, we don't dumb it down. We raise it up so more people can reach it. So, let's keep doing the hard work behind the scenes. Let's keep making it complicated for ourselves so the rest of the world can experience science in its simplest, most powerful form. Thank you.